So yeah, this is. Am I straight here? Well, no, it's really straight. You know what I mean. Oh my. Okay. It's not going to become a thing, but I reviewed a South Park episode. It's been ages since I did any reviews of anything South Park. I think I reviewed the movie and then didn't do the rest of the way back when. Would have been like 98. But it might be fun to have watch this one that's all over the internet right now instead of doing that Sniper Wolf thing that really is none of my concern. Now do a South Park thing that's a little safer. Just like South Park, playing it safe. You see. Now, first of all, there's already some right-wingers and left-wingers complaining about this one, including the Call Me Chato website. The producer, ex-Hollywood producer guy, Chato, who did a bunch of shows in the 80s, apparently. Assuming alongside Sherman Schwartz and those kind of guys. But yeah, South Park has been relevant off and on for years, and whenever they have somebody they like, they're not relevant. Like during the Trump years, they didn't do much of anything. The COVID episodes or whatever. So they liked him. So I guess so. They didn't do much with Obama either. Yeah, they said years ago, if our show ever gets stale, we'll stop making it. Your show, Trey and Matt, your show got stale in 2002. That's when you should have ended. For 20 more years, you've been like, rattling along doing other things. The fourth grade years, which has gone on for 20 years. I get what they're doing. I get the idea. Same thing with The Simpsons. They never age. And Charlie Brown, they never age. Get that. But, and they're never going to jump forward. They did an episode, I guess, last season where they did a couple of episodes where they jumped forward into the future through the multiverse. And this is sort of a spin-off of that. So some of these people were complaining, okay, yeah, this seems like a sequel to something that we haven't seen. It is a sequel to something you haven't seen. So yeah, it's a sequel. So keep that in mind. So yeah, that's why some of it doesn't make sense. They've already established some of this. It's sort of a follow-up to the multiversal stuff from the COVID years and from that later one, and sort of a little bit of the superhero ones too. It ties into that. They've been making fun of that for years. They haven't done the Star Cruiser Hotel. They kind of should have. But I guess there wasn't room enough in that for this 40-minute episode. So yeah, they've been known to do that. And they're being Mormon or ex-Mormon. And they've written a fascinating Mormon movie as well, which is fun. And them being also libertarians. They're not going to make fun of the right wing that much. And they're not going to make fun of the left wing that much. They're going to kind of cop out at the end. They've been doing this for years, literally since the beginning. If you go back to like Cartman gets an anal probe, one of the first episodes, and then go on to the one that Cartman's dad is revealed. They're doing that there too. They're like, oh, we really don't care whether that. And apparently there were fans that were up in arms, going like, oh my God, why is Cartman's dad the cop out at the end? And they've been doing that ever since. It's, oh my God, they killed Kenny again. You know. Now, what's funny about South Park the movie is they kind of predicted Saddam Hussein being killed. And there was another website that was complaining about how Family Guy and South Park is funnier because it has a log line and they follow a plot to its conclusion, whereas Family Guy doesn't. It's non-linear. It's just, okay, Peter's doing something wacky, or Brian's doing something wacky, or Stewie or something. They don't follow a log line. They kind of did with that Brian the dog gets killed, which everyone hated, so they brought him back. They intended to replace him in Family Guy. Now at South Park, they kind of did something similar with Mr. Garrison becomes Mrs. Garrison years ago. But it's got to be 15 years ago by now. They made Mrs. Garrison. Also, it's kind of messed up that, like, similar to Starship Locations, they sort of make fun of people they knew, And they knew a Mr. McKay, a guy like Mr. McKay. They knew a guy yeah, Mr. Garrison. They knew people like that. They were actually friends with the other people. If you go back and watch their infamous Cannibal the musical movie, the South Park kids are adults in that. Go back and watch it. It's Eric and they're basically Eric and Stan in that story, and the other two are Kenny and the other guy. Basically, so you get to see them as adults in Cannibal the musical. So, and they had what was it? Orgasmo and the Mormon play and a bunch of other stuff. Yeah, they've the infamous Bigger, Longer, Uncut, of course, and the infamous which also had random stuff. Yeah, so. and the of course the Team America World Police, which was a scathing review of the political. They said they were never going to do this, but they did it. Political ramifications of that time period. Now, nearly 30 years ago, and now on to this movie. Just so you have context for this sequel. It's a follow-up to something else. It's a follow-up. It's a sequel. And in the joke, inherent in the joke of the sequel, I don't want to explain a joke, because when Trey and Matt do a joke, it's like, Trey and Matt Parker, it's usually like, well, you don't want to explain it, because it's not going to make sense. There's an A story and a B story. They follow the Star Trek logline a little bit, which is interesting. And they do an A story and a B story. The crew going on a mission, send a guy down to a planet. Well, meanwhile, on the ship, something else is going on. A story, B story. Logline. Basic comedy rating thing, 4 characters. It's Little Rascals, but with cussing. Basically, it's Little Rascals with cussing. That's basically, and the template is the same the whole time. Same kind of beats happen. So the irony of the story is, as you break down the story, is that they are making fun of the log line in the story. The B story is that Randy Marsh needs his oven fixed and can't find any repairmen because they're all getting rich doing odd jobs and stuff from other people there, and he's bribing them, and they're all getting they do a treatise on don't go to college, even though Trey and Matt went to college. I went to college too. Not in Colorado, over here. But yeah, it was kind of funny. They were in Bowling for Columbine, and they denied making that cartoon in Bowling for Columbine, but they did. They did that cartoon. It was them. They denied it afterward. They said, no, we wouldn't have done that pro-gun cartoon, parody cartoon. Yeah, they would have. Come on, it was you guys. Come on. Okay, yeah, but they did say that they wouldn't have made fun of Columbine High School in the Columbine story because they went there. So the inspiration for all of South Park is Columbine High School. So if you go back to like before the Columbine disaster in the 90s, go back before that, go analyze that at the school shooting. Yeah, you will find Trey and Matt and his friends that the inspiration for South Park, which is why they will not make fun of it, which is why they denounced the cartoon that was in there. So yeah, now I know the backstory. Like okay, they're gonna cop out, and they do. They cop out. So basically, so we have the Randy Marsh story. We have another story. We have a multiverse going on where Disney is mad because Kathleen Kennedy has been replaced by a multiversal. It's a parody of into the multiverse of madness, basically, but with Cartman being Doctor Strange. So he's going back and forth and he's Doctor Strange. So they're spoofing that, spoofing any number of Marvel movies and saying, oh yeah, they're all lame and repetitive because they're all lame and repetitive. But after 25 movies, they're bound to be lame and repetitive. They only hit science fiction. You only have a given 3-act play idea for a superhero movie. Any superhero movie, even DC. They made fun of DC a little bit too, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not Disney. Having known the Disney, they totally repeat stuff. And the reason Phase 4 is off is because they took risks with some of the directors that they shouldn't have because they really didn't know how to direct that kind of movie. Even Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, getting Sam Raimi is clever, but can Sam Raimi really pull that off? And kind of not. He's more of a weird horror fantasy guy, not really a sci-fi action guy. He's more of a horror fantasy. So that'd be a lot of horror fantasy. The Spider-Man movies, though, those are good. The multiverse movie is good. Into the Spider-Verse, they're also spoofing Into the Spider-Verse a little bit. They're also spoofing the internet vitriol over Kathleen Kennedy in the Star Wars movies, saying she must have been replaced by this AI creature that looks like Cartman. Came in and replaced them. That's the plot. That's the A story. B story is they got to fix the oven. But the oven door story ties into the other one, and that they get to use the oven door as the portal to get everyone back. That's the plot. Get the other Kennedys back in the universe. Of course, they screw it up by bringing Randy brings other people into the present, to other handymen to help out. And there's a thing on corporate rich people and stuff, which is really weird because Matt and Trey are libertarians, and I'm not. But I understand that libertarians have some family members that are. So I'm like, okay, they like the put up by your bootstraps kind of stuff, and they like right wing stuff, and I'm not. And they're like, yeah, they tend to say, oh, let them do. Everybody either has to do it by themselves or let them do it. So there's spoofing libertarianism in there, with the attack on the college-educated people, the building. We never see them, but they attack the college with a trebuchet that they build, that they find a way to build. And Lady Cartman, there's a Lady Cartman. She goes out and rooks the mother into making a computer. They build a computer so he can play the game, not so he can get back. So, which is another spoof. The show, I don't think the right wingers get it though that are complaining, is the show isn't spoofing you guys, it's spoofing the internet vitriol. It's critical vitriol, the episode from Silly Track. It's like, okay, we're going to spoof this one character that's influencing all these other characters. It's very similar to Starship Destinations and the current season. Yeah, so we're waiting this long to do the 3 days to do the South Park. I didn't have anything to do with writing South Park. It's been, no, I didn't. I think the closest Kal Kat episode in South Park goes way, way back. Gosh, Imagination Land? Yeah. I didn't write that one, but it's very similar to something Kal Kat would have done. Imagination Land. Which is very similar to this. It's a parallel universe kind of thing going on. So they do that off and on in this series, and they're spoofing educated because a lot of the Trump MAGA people are uneducated and they think college is stupid. Some of them have trades, and that's fine. But some of them think that's stupid, so they're making fun of that. But then they're also making fun of the rich corporatocracy that's in charge of everything, which they do a lot on there, including the corporate Disney people. They're kind of spoofing the Barbie movie, which they pull Barbie out. This is kind of a spoof of the Barbie movie, actually. But that's Mattel, not Disney, so they put in the guise of Disney and Kathleen Kennedy. And what they should have done was a Star Cruiser parody. The Disneyland Star Cruiser, and they should have done a thing with that and like made it look like the hotel in The Shining. That was my idea, but they didn't want that. Have it all vacant and have Cartman in there like trapped in there. Or Kenny's soul is trapped in Star Cruiser Hotel. That would have been funny, but maybe they've already done that one. I don't know. Not familiar with this season at all. This is their Halloween special, I guess, technically. But yeah, they're not really spoofing the people they think they're spoofing. They're not spoofing the woke and the gay and lesbian characters being swapped in the movie. That's the filler. That's the disguise. That's the cop out. We're gonna have to meet up with the woke characters who are in the story. They call them woke, but they just mean diverse. That's what it means, diverse. So they spoof that, but they don't go far enough with that spoof. They copped out. They don't really go there. I mean, the lesbian characters talk about boobs on someone that we never see, but they're all hot in terms of South Park characters, drawn to look like high schoolers basically, instead of kids and the fourth graders, and they're drawn up like high schoolers. And the joke is that no one seems to notice that Cartman's been replaced by the black girl. But so what? I mean, if you guys are complaining about that, that's the very thing they're making fun of. So they're making fun of that diversity thing. But they're actually copping out because they're saying no. At the end, you see Cartman and Kathleen Kennedy make up, but then they realize from the other universe, because she traps him, they make up, but they discover that Cartman's been the one putting out all the vitriol on the internet, which actually kind of makes sense, which is funny. There's a couple of... Oh, there's one guy on there, and I saw it this morning, complaining that they were spoofing him directly. I don't think so. Yeah, one of the internet people was complaining, no, they're making fun of me directly because that guy kind of looks like me, that repairman guy. And it's like, I don't think so. I think they're just using the archetype of it would be funny if like a bearded, spectacled guy was a tech guy. I don't think they're making fun of that guy specifically. They would have mentioned it if they're making fun of the specific. They've done stuff like that, but I don't think that's the case here. I think they're just the archetype of the keyboard warrior sitting at home playing video games with a paunchy gut or whatever, and he's like trying to, oh, the multiverse, I'm gonna go complain to Disney. That they're making fun of them in general. They're not. They never go right at somebody. It's in general. They learned their lesson from losing Isaac Hayes back in the day to them, who was a Scientologist. They complained, oh my God, you made fun of Scientology. And one of their most brilliant episodes, actually. Their Mormon one was great too. Yeah, they did a Mormon one. At least one. They did two, I think. But when they did that Scientology one, oh my goodness, Isaac Hayes just said, okay, the heck with you guys, I'm leaving. So they wrote out Isaac Hayes' character. A chef. That's going way, way back. Yeah, old school South Park person. But way, way back. Yeah, that was like early 2000 or something. I don't know, 2000 aughts or something. Yeah, so... yeah, the Mormon one, I had a Mormon friend, Jim Buffkin, who did not appreciate that Mormon episode, but that was an interesting discussion that night. But yeah, nobody I know is a Scientologist, so we all thought that was funny. But yes, so it was funny. And Christian Rockhard is probably the most brilliant skewering of Christian rock songs and Christian rocker, so I think that was really hilarious. I thought it was great. But yeah, entertainer guy, so I thought it was funny. It was really funny. So, but yeah, this is more of a treatise on South Park than the episode. So yeah, they've done some really funny ones. And this one does cop out because it basically says that Cartman is behind the whole thing without knowing it. And he's actually the center of the universe. So those other ones on the internet that are complaining that Cartman is a spoof of them are a little bit over the top, I'm sure, of themselves. Because Trey and Matt literally turn around and go, oh, no, it was Cartman. It wasn't you guys on the internet. It was Cartman the whole time. He was behind it. So they basically, it's a cop-out. Basically saying, no, we're not actually gonna legally go after like other random internet people and our fans at our South Park show, which they probably don't watch. But it's nice that they watched this episode and they flocked to it and complain about it. What did they want? Kathleen Kennedy to be crucified or something? Probably. But I was like, they don't understand how the internet guys don't understand how that works in corporate. Near as I can figure from doing research, but I'm not a corporate person. Near as I can figure that they don't really control that. The boss controls that. Current boss of Disney is Bob Iger. He would direct whatever Disney does in the story like that. The previous guy before him, the Chajek, the awful Star Cruiser thing, closed that. It doesn't work. $6,000 a ticket to watch a variety show and then play Space Bingo and watch an act. Great. Yeah, that sounds like a great ride. That attraction sounds like it sucks. Like, like you'd do better at a Ren Fair or something. Yeah, you could have more fun at a Ren Fair. You could have more fun with fans at a convention doing that. But here we have... Yeah. So here we have, a South Park episode that actually doesn't ultimately suck. There are some clever lines in it. I think it skewers the Disney stuff, but then it skewers the people that are posting. about the Disney stuff, and that's what upsets the right wingers. They're like, oh my god, and they think that the liberals are snowflakes when they're the biggest snowflakes of them all. If they're turned off by that ending being lukewarm, and it was lukewarm, but yeah, and then doing enough. Well, what did they want? I mean, they've been saying, "Oh, fire Kathleen Kennedy" since 2015. I don't think they're any going to cancel her at any point since 2015. So she's not going anywhere. And I don't think it's that she's necessarily all that bad. I think the other people above her are telling her what to write. She doesn't have full carte blanche of that. And also, what's screwy about the episode is they conveniently leave Kevin Feige out. Kevin Feige, and he does Marvel movies. So why are they saying Kennedy's doing it when Kevin Feige's the Marvel guy? They're spoofing the wrong people. They're spoofing the Star Wars movies, I guess. There could have been a little more of that. There could have been a little more like, this is a spoof of The Mandalorian, and they could have done the joke that we do in Starship Destinations. They could have done the joke that we do repeatedly, but as a joke, just to be funny. There's this villain who shows up in one of the episodes, and then another one's near the act. He says, I'm the third act villain that shows up at the last minute you didn't expect. They did that an awful lot. They could have spoofed that there. They kind of did. They kind of do with the other Kennedy of March, but they kind of do that joke, which I approve of that. But yes, the their story is there are random bits in there. The treatise on college is weird because they went to school. They went to film school. I believe they dropped out of film school, but they ended up making a multi-million-dollar TV series. So Kevin Smith also dropped out of film school, director, and he ended up making millions of dollars on movies. He doesn't need them. But yeah, I went to school many times, several years, and I don't have a career in film and TV and stuff. And that's fine. I have YouTube stuff. But the South Park episode was, the diverse stuff was only the covering, the coding of the story. The reference like Bambi. You put a chicken in it, make it gay. And then they showed like a KFC character, and he was like a gay chicken. Great. Yeah. That's what they did in the story. But they seem to be up in arms that it wasn't enough, but at the same time they're up in arms about it not crucifying Kathleen Kennedy somehow. But it also doesn't necessarily do enough of the spoof against the woke thing, which they are obsessed about. And then they're upset over that the Cartman character and the handyman and the other one kind of represent vaguely internet celebrities that have been on about Kathleen Kennedy. They're not, though. I mean, if they would have gone there, like Doomclock, for instance, has one up. They would have gone there. They would have showed Doomclock show up, and he would have been like, center of the world, If they wanted to do that, they would have done it. They didn't want to do that. I think it would have been Chado's channel mentioned that it would be funny if Mark Hamill showed up. Yeah, that probably would have been, but but I don't think he would have. What would he have done? Would he have played the mother at the end? So they'd probably like, no, that's not gonna work. The Disney corporate guys. It's a spoof of Barbie through the multiverse, basically, with Cartman as the character, because it's not Mattel, it's Disney. And I enjoyed the picture of Mickey Mouse from Mouse. It's in the background on a poster on the wall. Mouse. That was funny. They put that in there. He looks all evil and dour, like he's like one of the agents of Adolf in Germany, which is funny. In the background, hovering behind their heads. That was funny. I wonder if that was a Mac computer they built. There were some clever jokes, but it wasn't. The diversity thing wasn't the joke. If they're thinking the diversity thing was the joke, no, It's a spoof of the multiverse. That's the joke. Yeah, if anything, South Park is the the least random of those two. The Simpsons is kind of similar. They never do a Simpsons. Yeah, I haven't watched Simpsons in a long time. but yeah, the jokes being random and sort of is more like a Family Guy and The Simpsons. Family Guy's a parody of The Simpsons, in case you didn't know, as well as American Dad being a parody of The Simpsons. Is that show even on anymore? Anyway, but they have tried sequels that haven't worked. But yeah, the Cleveland show was not funny. It just was not funny. But yes, yeah, they probably needed to stop her, but years ago, after Team America, it should have been the end of it. 2004. But no, they've made over 300 episodes. So making you understand they don't use the old Flash animation like before. It looks like they're using more advanced animation techniques, but they still sort of make it look hand drawn, which is kind of funny. And yeah, the gag about the counselor was funny. The handyman thing. But yeah, yeah, there was randomness in it. It was just different kinds of randomness. It's to play his video game. Okay. The gamers laughed at that part. That was funny. But yes, but yeah, I'm not a gamer, so yeah, and Chato was also mentioning that they wouldn't get the joke about the Kathleen Kennedy thing. I think they would, based on two things. South Park started when the internet started. That's the first one. So it would be the people that are watching South Park would have watched it Comedy Central and then gone to the internet and watched it. So South Park started in the late 90s. The internet started when it started to get really big. So they would download episodes. So yes, Trey and Matt Stone would be aware of the Kathleen Kennedy thing has been going on for 2 years. He said it's a little late. This episode would have been better like 2 years ago when it was a little bit more relevant, but would it have really worked 2 or 3 years ago? I don't know. There was kind of already one earlier, 2 years ago. They do acknowledge the Spider-Verse movies are cool, but yeah, I think they would get it. I think that the Kathleen Kennedy thing, the Disney thing, is big enough on the internet that it's not just a few people that they would get that. As for my opinion, either way, it doesn't matter. I really don't have one on that debacle. It is a debacle, but it's not the diversity that's doing it. It's the weird other decisions that are around it that are doing it. Like so the other one, Little Mermaid could be blue or gray. Well, that doesn't matter. But Snow White has to be white because Snow White is based on a German folk tale. It's like Snow White has to be white. It can't be diverse. That doesn't work. Then she's something else. Then she's I don't know, Ebony Dark or something. I don't know. She's not Snow White anymore. She's something else. In that case, yeah, you don't want to do that. But yeah, but yes. So there's, but the Lion King thing looked terrible. The Aladdin thing was overwrought. Made $1 billion. Yeah, the internet trolls are not going to skewer Kennedy. And it's like, well, she was with the other cast in the original. She was Lucas's pick to take over. So it's not just her; it's the whole cast doing it. Like, why did they let Jon Favreau put, what's his name, Cad Bane in there? Only the game people would have gotten that character. Or the people that had seen some of those Rebels episodes. That was weird. And I said so in my review of that show. I was like, why is Cat... That's almost as weird as the Solo thing with the appearance by Darth Maul, because you'd have to have seen the games. And they said they were going to make the games and the movies, the expanded universe of Star Wars, apocrypha, and say that, no, it didn't actually happen, it's not canon. And then they go and use it, and they make it canon. They can make up their minds. What are they doing? But yeah, there's some goofy stuff. But to skewer the producer over it just because you don't like the stuff, that's silly and a waste of time. So don't, yeah. It's because whoever was in charge up above was saying, do this, do this, do this. Wasn't like in the South Park episode. Where they were like, oh no, we have to rescue our producer. Wasn't like in the South Park episode. It was more like, no, Bob Iger's in charge. And you would say, okay, yeah, it's not working to cast what you did with the Eternals and the other ones. Yeah, the Kang Dynasty isn't working. It's not that it isn't working because it was a black guy. It's that the actor is in trouble with the law and stuff now. So, kind of gotta recast him. Nope, just recast him. Heck, maybe Will Smith is available. I mean, he only slapped that one guy. You know, him do it. That'd be cool. But yeah, so the South Park thing, yeah, I didn't see anything wrong with it ultimately, that it was the ire of other fandom and worried about, what only the fandom would understand. Well, Chato's wrong because they would. Because the Kathleen Kennedy thing is known all over the world. They would definitely know who that person is. She's quite famous. They would know that those Star Wars movies made billions of dollars despite the silly Palpatine ending. And everybody knows the Kal Kat version of that ending that JJ did not want, which was similar to the internet ending. If you're going to do Palpatine, have it revealed that Palpatine is also a puppet. And behind the puppet, behind the puppet master, is an old crusty Jar Jar Binks, who is the evil overlord of the Sith the whole time. He was the Dark Lord of the Sith. That'd have been so cool. It'd been like, okay, now this movie's redeemed, and it redeems the prequel. I wasn't the only one that thought of that, though. Have J.J. Abrams go like, no, we're not doing it. It's too meta. But yes, multiverses. And yeah, the Marvel movies are cookie cutter movies, and they're on par with the current DC ones at this point. They're not as good as they were, because they were trying too much to be weird. And yes, like one of my relatives pointed out recently that we were talking about the Marvel movies, and he was like, "Yeah, that's the problem with the newer ones. They're being more like DC. Is they're trying to do uncohesive, weird stuff from the Kirby era, and the problem with that is the people that wrote those Celestial stories were wasted on acid and all kinds of drugs, and it's really obvious. And they didn't know what they were doing. I'm surprised that they want to use any of that stuff. But yeah, which they didn't really spoof in this movie, in this special, 2-part special. They didn't spoof that. They spoofed the idea that it's lazy writing. And yes, cookie cutter writing is lazy writing, but then again, they're spoofing themselves, because South Park is basically using a template, and they can tell from watching it, that's a cookie cutter, lazy template they've been using, which still works for 30 years. So, Train Matt, hypocrite much? Anyway. Oh, shit. Oh. Screw you guys, I'm going home.